Welcome to episode 57 of the Putting Couch. We are now into our new video podcasts, and we've got our great friend Pat O'Brien, who really is at the top of the SeeMore pyramid of the world, as everybody knows. And Pat really got his start in putting instruction with Payne Stewart, the late, great Payne Stewart. Pat, we're at 25-year anniversary of Payne Stewart's still the greatest putt in U.S. Open history, and I'm sure that that's something you've been thinking about lately.
Amazing. Yes, sir. I think about it a lot.
Yeah, it's incredible. So to celebrate that 25-year anniversary, which is also the 25-year anniversary of the SeeMore Putter Company. So you're the only one that's been here all 25 years, Pat. And we love you're old.
Welcome.
We're old. Yeah, you don't look old though. That's the difference. And now that we have a video podcast, people can see that for themselves.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really look forward to the video podcast. Is going to be a lot of fun. And I think with this being the 25-year anniversary of Payne Stewart, and, I think it'd be fun to just talk to you about, how, what can a golfer do to improve their putting that takes them from a struggling player on the greens who's constantly frustrated with their putting and constantly feeling like they're underachieving because they're just not making enough putts. Really, that was sort of Payne Stewart's story heading into that 1999 season. He really had not been putting anywhere near what he thought his potential was. And the switch to the SeeMore putter that year opened up a whole new world to him. Let's talk about that a little bit.
You bet. So I watched him play a lot of golf throughout his career, starting in 1987. And I'd go to tournaments and I'd follow him around, and I'd of course watch him on TV as much as I could. And he was at best a streaky putter. He would have his weeks where he'd putt well, and then he would have his weeks where he'd putt terribly. And I, vividly remember him always standing off to the side of the green, like working on a stroke and trying to find a feel and not putting well that day and just trying to figure it out. And then, lo and behold, 1999 comes around, and at the Pebble Beach tournament, and Arnie Cunningham, the rep at the time, gave him a putter, and it changed everything. He had a reference point with the red dot and the two white lines, and he immediately fixed his ball position. He kind of fixed his head and his alignment, and he suddenly had this routine that he could go back to all the time, and immediately he became consistent. He became a great putter, and it was cool. I mean, he won the tournament that week, and then he putted great the rest of the year, and he won the U.S. Open, and it was the contrast was just so drastic, amazing, just like not really having a clue to being locked in all of a sudden. Just truly amazing.
Had he always been like that with struggling that year and the year before with his putting? And I know Mike Hicks, his caddy at the time, said he was always changing this and doing that. I mean, it sounds as if it might have been the same troubles that, the average golfer might have.
Just trying to figure it out. I mean, you can go back to like Shinnecock in 86, and, he had that bullseye putter, and the heel was way off the ground, really upright, and, almost like putting that thing off the toe. And I think he put it okay that week, but just always, and then he had an answer putter. He was, the toe was up in the air instead of the heel. And so he, was just always switching, like a lot of tour players do, and a lot of players do, like searching for that magic. And then lo and behold, the SeeMore comes around. He's got a routine built in.
Yeah, there's if it can work for somebody like Payne Stewart, 25 years later, it's amazing. I mean, I like to say that, the SeeMore putter is still the same 25 years later. I mean, yeah, you could say things have changed here, this and that, but there's never been another putting performance at the U.S. Open like that putting performance. I don't care what you say. And 24 putts in the final round, and that putter, the same light that went off, immediately, as you said, with Payne Stewart, and that it solved so many things at once. You instruct a lot of golfers, Pat, and over the years, you've put a lot of players into SeeMore putters based on that relationship and that knowledge and that inside information you have on how good a SeeMore putter can be. Talk about how this is a putter it's not just for the best players in the world. I mean, it can help anybody that wants to improve their putting. Tell us about how you do that.
Sure. Well, first thing, the SeeMore has changed a lot in the 25 years in that it is now a beautiful looking putter. Like,
Great point.
the old school
Yep.
model was a
Yep.
bronze aluminum alloy, and it
Yep.
was fine. But you guys make some of the most pretty putters in the world now, all different shapes and sizes, and so that technology is amazing. And kudos to you guys. And I've never sold a SeeMore putter. I've never. All I do is I bring out a putter, usually because the student's putter does not fit them for whatever reason, lie angle, length, or just fitting their eye. Can they aim? And so I'll bring out putters. I have fitting putters, and I bring them out, and all of a sudden, they get into the right setup, and then they use the technology, and then they start hitting putt solidly, and then they ask me, "Hey, can I buy one of these putters?" And of course, yeah. And I've honestly never sold one in my career. It's the coolest thing. I don't have to.
And that is cool. And yeah, in this day and age, nobody wants to be sold anything. As you said, you want to discover something for yourself. And that's the nice thing, is the light does go off when they see there's something different about it. And you probably just have to point that out. Sometimes they probably don't even know what it is, but as you've always talked about, letting the putter kind of do the work. Tell us a little bit about what you mean when you say, you want to put somebody in a position where they can take advantage of the dynamics of the putter.
Sure. So, I mean, whoever designed the putter, the physics of it, physics for dummies like me, as I call it, you have a shaft that goes in at somewhere around 70 degrees. You have a heavy weight attached to a stick, essentially. You have a balance point that's somewhere down near the head. And so this putter that's in your hands is weighted to go up and around an equal amount and return right back to square without you really doing anything. But the key is to get into a setup where you can allow that to happen, and that's ball position and alignment and posture and all the fundamentals that sometimes, get a free pass in putting for some reason. Like, oh, just do whatever is comfortable. No, it's because you're not in a position to allow that weight to swing. And then when you do, my gosh, putting becomes so much more simple.
And do you find that most golfers show up with, as you said, the putter's not really fit right? So as a result, then they're in the wrong posture, and they're trying to do things where they're manipulating and they're fighting the putter. Once you get them in the right setup, you can then show them how the putter is meant to work.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. I've never really taught stroke in my career. I've always taught setup and then let the putter swing, and that way you take number one, you take opinion out of it, because there are a lot of opinions out there about how to putt, keep it low, or do this or do that, or arc or straight back. It's weighted to go a certain way. And it's like a balance sheet. There's an equal amount of up and there's an equal amount of around. And when you allow that to happen, it returns to square just based on forward momentum. So you don't have to do anything. So yeah, most of the time I'll see somebody that, generally I don't see people that have putters that are too long for them generally. Usually it's too short for them, but the lie angle's off, or maybe it just doesn't fit their eye, whether it be, they should be in more of a blade type or a mallet type, but, but using the reference point of the red dot and the two white lines, and then teaching them ball position and alignment, all that, it's just a perfect combination of things to get them to be more consistent.
We are talking to Pat O'Brien, SeeMore's global ambassador. His career goes back to Payne Stewart, the late great Payne Stewart. He learned a lot about what he knows about putting just from watching Payne's transformation. He then took it out to the tour. Vaughn Taylor and Zach Johnson at various times both led the tour in putting, as Payne Stewart had led the tour in putting in 1999. So it's not a coincidence. And I know that Vaughn and Zach, they brought you over to the Ryder Cup back in 2006. Two young players, they're considered Ryder Cup rookies at the same time, both having you as their instructor and both using SeeMore putters. And again, here we are many years later, but it's the same simple technology. And it's very easy for golfers to get caught up in what the latest is from the big companies or the little companies that are advertising. But really, a simple technology like a SeeMore putter, as you said, you don't have to do a lot of complicated instruction once they understand. No, we're going to get you to use this putter in the way that it's designed, and you've taken so much of the hard work out of play. And Zach Johnson, 13 wins on the PGA Tour, nearly $50 million, and I know that you took Vaughn and Zach and pretty much took the same approach that I guess you would take with any young player this day and age who wants to improve their putting. Tell us about those guys, because I think that's a really important part of SeeMore's history.
Sure. Vaughn Taylor he aimed left on everything, and he would have to push things, and his shoulders were open and his face was left, and so he didn't really have a reference point, and so we kind of got him back into neutral, and suddenly go figure, he became more consistent, and it took some work, and that's the thing that I appreciate the most about him is that he, change sometimes can be difficult if you've been doing something a certain way for a long time, but he intuitively knew that he needed to change, and he was patient with it. And I was a tour rep at the time, so I'd see him every week, and we just go back to the fundamentals, and we'd get on a chalk line, or we'd take out the SeeMore triangulator with the string, and here's where you're aiming, and why, and okay, well, let's square you up, and and we had a big breakthrough when we adjusted his grip. Got him to hold it more in the fingers, and that squared everything up automatically, and he got some feel for that. And really, ever since then, it was the Byron Nelson in, it might have been 05 or so. He just took off from there as a putter. So, yeah, he was, what a great guy. And then Zach Johnson, he was more of a right aimer, and he would have to pull putts to make them. And again, he knew that if he wanted to get to that next level, he had to fix his putting. And so with that putter, he's people have always made the comment that he's got his hands back a little bit. Well, that was just a trick that I had learned from Payne Stewart, that, to kind of cup your left wrist a little bit. And that was, it resonated with him. And so that worked for him. And that was a key for Payne. And again, got him into a good setup and got him aligned better, and and he just took the ball and ran with it. I remember he called me, this was probably maybe 04, 03, I think 03, and he said, "Hey Pat, I've been really working on this putter in the off season, and I'm going to put it in play. I think it's time to put it in play." And I said, "Oh, great, Zach." And he won 3 Hooters Tour events in a row, boom, 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 and again, never looked back. And and that putter was like a teacher when I wasn't there, because if they got off, they had a reference to go back and fix something in their setup, and then they were good. So they were much more consistent. And, I've always said that the better the teacher you are, the less the student relies on you. And that's the goal. I don't need people coming to me all the time. So between that, the knowledge that I've gained and the wisdom that I've gained through the years, and the putter that is married up with that, it's a home run.
Yeah, no, I've always thought about that too, Pat. And I know that you love to put somebody in a position where, hey, they get it, they understand it, and they'll easily remember what it was that you're working on, because it's sort of, as you said, it's got some reminders built in there that they can use, and so they can phone you, they can talk to you. Even if they're not in contact with you, they remember what it was that you taught them, because it's so simple and it's so repeatable. And it allows them. I know Zach Johnson told me that the greatest thing is as he went along, he was so certain that he had everything right in terms of the right product and the right setup and the right stroke, that he started focusing much more on the athletic part of it that he called, which was getting the line and the speed right and the feel of the putt right. And he just, maybe every once in a while, he would calibrate in terms of making sure that the putter felt right during his stroke. But I know he told me that while everybody else was worried about their stroke, he was thinking much beyond that about, what is he going to have to do to make a putt? And that's what turned him into the great player and putter that he was.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was fun to watch.
Well, I know, Pat.
Yeah, go ahead, Ted.
I was going to say, Pat, you made, for me at least, and other putting instructors out there, much more enjoyable to teach putting. You would give the why behind everything. And that putter was a simple common denominator between teacher and student that both could relate to. And so getting what posture, what stance, what we wanted them to get in, it made it real nice, because we were both looking down and talking about the same thing, the red dot and the 2 white lines. And so that was just a nice comfort in the teacher aspect, that I could relate to the student, that now I know that the student was getting what I was trying to relay to them. Where sometimes it might be a little bit harder in the full swing to try to talk about that, but at least when it came to putting, it was easy to talk about because the student would get the why behind everything that we talked about.
Yeah, for sure. That's what's always driven me is I want to know why, and I want to know a root cause of something. I don't want to put a Band-Aid on something. I want to find the root cause and eliminate it so it really doesn't come back. And not only that, but I want to educate the person in front of me about that root cause, so they can fix themselves.
Another thing, great, you said, posture fix your stroke. You fix his stroke. So, if you're trying to get real armsy or handsy with it, take a look at the posture, and normally 99% of that time, posture will dictate how that stroke goes.
Yeah, and that's the biomechanics for dummies like me. It's you don't have to put it in complex terms. If you're in an athletic setup and your arms are hanging freely underneath your shoulders, they're going to swing freely. But if you're too bent over, your arms get stuck and your hands get stuck, and that changes the plane of the putter, the stroke, the path. And so nice and tall and athletic and relaxed, and off you go.
Well, I mean, you would think it would be easy to understand that, but I mean, and once you mention it, I'm like, well, yeah, that's an easy way and the correct way to fix that, and that's another thing the student doesn't have to worry about. But you have to tell them, and you were smart enough to see that and make that work according to what your teaching philosophy was, and goes so much hand in hand with the red dot and the white lines that, it's almost a no-brainer that now the student, like you've always said, if you can just get out of the way and let your body and the putter work together, whew, you're a deadly combo right there.
Yeah, you can get into the picture. You can see a picture and know that you're going to start the ball on line and relax, and then good results come. You're not worried about anything when you're over the ball.
No.
Well, Pat, this is something. I mean, over the years, we've been friends a long, long time, and it's happened so often that I hear from players who are students of yours, and they consider themselves to be long-term students of yours, great friends of yours. Not that they see you all the time, but you've made practice putting, the art of putting, you've made it really enjoyable for them, so that they consider you to be, truly their putting instructor. And what I see with so many other players, first of all, most other players I don't think even open themselves up to a new way of putting or improving their putting. They just sort of continue to go about it on their own. And I want to ask you about that. But these players, the players that do seek putting help, it seems like when they're not going to Pat O'Brien, it just seems like they're running from one instructor to the next. They're looking for some sort of short-term fix. Something might happen. Maybe for a little while they're happy, and then they're on to something else. And I think that the reason they stick with you is because what you've brought to them is so simple. And I think they feel like it's the right thing to do. And the results prove it. I mean, you've had players at all levels, wins at so many different levels, whether it's school, amateur tournaments, club tournaments. But what I love is the fact that they've got an instructor. They've got a putting instructor, Pat O'Brien, that they go to for a tune-up every once in a while, and they love it. Just the way that a golfer would go to a really great swing instructor. But gosh, most golfers, I mean, if you went to Lakewood Country Club in Dallas, where you're the director of instruction, what percentage of players at a club engage in putting instruction or putting lessons? I mean, maybe at your club it's much higher. I'm sure it is. But let's go to the club down the road. What do you think the percentages would be?
I would think it'd be pretty low, Well, number one, it's more fun to hit the ball better. I get that. And and maybe once you accomplish that, if you ever accomplish that, because golf's a hard game, then maybe you start to think, well, if I really want to shave those extra strokes, I go putt, or maybe I get better at chipping or whatever it may be. So, it's stacked against putting instruction, let's say, because it's not as fun or seemingly important. And then, there's probably an absence of quality putting instruction out there, just because most of putting instruction is just recycled old paradigms that have been around forever, that you even hear on TV when you watch golf. And I always joke that it's ironic that the guys that are commentating on TV are on TV because they weren't very good putters. So be careful who you listen to. But it's just, it's just one of those things that when the student is willing, the teacher appears, and when the student is really willing, the teacher disappears because the student's got it. So you have to kind of
Wow.
you have to decide that, hey, I want to become a better putter, number one, and then hopefully you find somebody that you click with. And I appreciate all your compliments, but I certainly haven't clicked with everybody, and that's probably the hardest job in teaching is to get, to speak the student's language and to communicate with them on their level. And, that's just teaching. You're not going to communicate with everybody, but I'm always going to do the best I can. And I'm always going to, at least they know that, hey, these are the root causes and these are what you got to work on. But then it comes down to a decision. Do you really want to work on that stuff, or you just want to kind of go back to what's comfortable?
I know the way Zach Johnson told me originally is he said what he loved about the SeeMore putter, and Vaughn said the same thing, was that it was not just a putter, but it was a system. And they felt like that's kind of what you gave them. And that seemed to click much more than somebody just giving them a lesson or giving them a pointer. It was like you gave them a new way of thinking about putting. And you talked about how the putter is designed to return to square. Can you talk just a little bit more about that? What exactly, like when you have that?
Sure. Well, I mean, the start of the stroke is the most important thing, and what I mean by that is, if you're in a good setup and you don't have any tension and you're confident, then the head's always going to travel the furthest in a stroke. So the head goes first. That's kind of like why they ban belly putters and long putters, because it's a fixed point. So the head is always going to pass the handle because that's the way it's weighted. So you don't putt with your shoulders, or you don't try to do this or try to do that. You control the putter the right way, and you let the head swing, and the head's going to swing up, and then eventually it's going to go around, and then it's going to fall down. But if it doesn't go up enough initially because of tension or control, then you're going to have a reaction to that. Your brain knows everything. What a supercomputer we have. So if it doesn't start properly, you've got to make an adjustment mid-stroke, and that's where timing comes in. But if it starts properly, and watch the best putters, the putter swings up. You get those cameras from behind, and it flows up and it falls down. So that's the only thing I look for in a stroke is the start. And if it's wobbly or if it's staying down, I know that there's tension. And then why is there tension? Well, maybe you're not sure of where you're aiming, which is, again, ties right into the SeeMore. Or maybe you're not sure you read it right. And it's funny, I see a lot of guys the good players, guys and girls, that, and I'm not very good at reading greens. Well, no, you are. You just don't start the ball on the line that you think you're on. And so, but when you feel good and you let it go, it comes up and it falls down. So it's so simple, really. We just have to get into that athletic setup and let the putter work.
Well, so you're saying most golfers are a little bit better than they would say they are, or that they think they are, in reading the greens. They've been playing golf their whole life, and deep down their brain knows where it's supposed to go. But because they're so off in their setup and in their stroke, that they then attribute it to their inability to read the green, when it's really not about that.
Yeah, that's correct. But that's also why they're the best players in the world, because they can kind of shut that out and compartmentalize that, and keep their confidence up, let's say.
I think, Pat, the one thing, again, you also taught me was the ability to have the golfer make and learn what a repeatable stroke is each and every time, no matter what length the putt is. The ability to set up the same way, have the same feeling, even though when the ball leaves the putter head, the face, the first 10 to 12 inches, the sound, the feel, and the roll always going to feel the same when you know what that is. And I think that's a huge key in putting, is allowing you to know and how to get in that feeling every single time, that setup every single time. So the beauty of, I think a lot of golfers don't really understand what a good putt feels like. And I think you can teach people actually what a good putt feels like and how they can make it repeatable day in and day out every time they're on the green.
Absolutely. And then, speed comes from that, because the contact's the same all the time, and the cadence of the stroke is the same all the time, and so you take a lot of the variables out, and then you can work on your speed because of that. But if you don't have that, Well, my speed's not very good. Well, yeah, it's because some are thin or on the heel or on the toe, or the cadence changes, and you can work on speed all day when your fundamentals are off, and you're not going to get anywhere, and it's just kind of a waste of time. So it's good to have that feeling, that soft, squishy, compressed feeling, isn't it?
It is. It's nice.
Awesome.
Now, we can save this for the next one, but why do so many people still talk about straight back, straight through, and arc to arc? And, you hear that all the time. You mentioned earlier about the old paradigms and talking along those lines. Is that just what it was back then, and people still haven't evolved yet into your teaching? I sometimes I cringe every time I hear straight back, straight through, and arc to arc. I know the SeeMore putting stroke and your putting stroke, it's an athletic putting stroke. It's a little bit of both.
Yeah, it is. There's a width to the stroke, which could be perceived as a straighter back as opposed to a contrived arc, that comes in too early. But again, that up part takes care of the width, and then the angle of the putter takes care of the around, and it's all built in basically. So, it's just like in a golf swing, keep your head down or do this or do that. It's just recycled paradigms that, what do they mean? Let's have an intelligent conversation and get away from some of that stuff.
Let's Ted, we're going to go to a second session here with Pat O'Brien. He is the director of instruction at Lakewood Country Club. He's truly one of the great putting instructors, I think, of all time. It's sort of, putting instruction is not something that's been around forever, but Pat has been there, I think, since the late great Payne Stewart in 1999. And since that day, golfers really from around the world have gone to see you, Pat. Now at Lakewood, it's a private club, very, very beautiful club down in Dallas. Are players from around the world, are they able to come and see you and to book time with you? How would that work if somebody wanted to come and work with you, Pat?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. And I do a lot of online lessons too, where people send me videos and I'll coach them and send them back. So yes, if we can put my contact info on this, that'd be
definitely
great. I'm
fantastic.
My job to help people, and I love it. So whoever it is, come and see me or send me an email or do whatever. Happy to help.
That's fantastic. I need to come down there and learn how to eat those green vegetables again too. That every time I come away from being with you, I feel like I'm eating a lot healthier too, Pat. So it's you're full service. All right. Well, hey, let's wrap this up. This has been episode 57 of the Putting Couch, brought to you by the SeeMore Putter Company's tour team. I'm Jim Grunberg, along with Ted Galena and Pat O'Brien, who really is the chairman of the board here at SeeMore. And so we'll come back and talk a little bit more. It is. I think we should talk a little bit more about the Masters and Zach Johnson, because I remember, this, we don't usually date our podcast, but this one, not only is it during the 25-year anniversary of Payne Stewart, but it is Masters time. And I'll never forget Zach Johnson after winning the Masters, coming from nowhere, thanking you, Pat, in the Butler Cabin presentation and talking about how much you meant to him. So I'd like to come back with that in the next one, okay? We'll talk to you soon. This has been episode 57 of the Putting Couch.
We appreciate you joining us. If you haven't subscribed to the show, make sure you do wherever you're listening. Be sure to leave a rating and review, because that's how we get the Putting Couch podcast content in front of more people. Also, take a screenshot and share it on social media and tag us at SeeMore Putters or #Team SeeMore.